Are we ready to get started? Are we recording? We're all. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call to the community. This is a time for citizens who would like to address the City Council, address the RPG Commission on any non-agenda item. Action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to asking staff to review the matter, asking that the matter be put on a future agenda, or responding to criticism. No? And we had no call to the community last month, so we can move on. Staff reports. Community and Recreation Services Monthly Report. Presenter, Tricia Kramer, Director of Community and Recreation Services.
Thank you, Chairman Patty and Commissioners. Nice to see you again this month. My report is in your agenda, and I'll just highlight a couple of items. Aquatics and youth sports summer registrations will open next Monday, the 17th. For aquatics, we had 30 seasonal lifeguard positions, and we only have 3 left to fill. So we will likely be doing that at the final lifeguard training session, which starts tomorrow. And there are 9 participants, registrants in that, so we should have a good pool to pick from for that. And then we'll be all set and ready for training them further and for the season to start. So we're excited to have aquatics back up and running at the pool for the summer. The Mar West Swim Lead contract is still being worked out, and we expect that to be on the council's agenda in May. Preschool is off to a good start for their summer camp registrations. Since the report, they are now at 45 spaces filled in summer camp and 27 students enrolled in the upcoming preschool year. So they're plugging right along. For community services, we sent out another reminder notice to nonprofits about the appropriations applications deadline, which is coming up on the 21st. We usually get about 10 to 12 nonprofit applicants each year. I anticipate that to be the same. We did have interest from a couple of new ones. They haven't filed yet, but we hope to see that happen. So if you know any nonprofit leaders that are active in Litchfield Park, please feel free to share that with them, and hopefully they will apply for some funding from the city. In terms of the April 22nd community garage sale, same thing, we're up to about 45 or 46 participating households. Yeah, we just did a couple of banners that'll be put up the week of the community garage sale to help draw people into the community. We'll add a couple more each year. We want to build that up for residents that are participating, and there'll be an ad in the West Valley View next Wednesday too, in the classified section. So hopefully we'll get some good traction for people that are latching on to that. Special events, we applied for a festival grant from the Arizona Commission on the Arts. We just did that last week, and those will be reviewed in May. We'll wait to see what comes. We won't find out till July, but fingers crossed. We sent out some thank yous to all of our sponsors for this season now that that's pretty much wound down. And we put in some surveys, some QR codes to surveys. So hopefully we get some good feedback from the sponsors as well. And then, of course, next Friday night, the 21st, is our final Arts in the Park concert. The City Nights Band will be out. They were our season finale concert last year and were really well received. So they'll be out again performing from 6 to 8 on the lawn of the Wigwam. So come on out and join us if you're available. And then I'm going to let Pat speak to youth sports and how everything's going there.
Thank you, Tricia. So we are spring sports season is in full swing. We're going into week 4 this upcoming Saturday. So far, I believe everyone's having a great time. The kids seem to be enjoying themselves with soccer and basketball and flag football, finally able to play games. So we also we applied to get the Better Sports for Kids Quality Program provider. We have been that since 2020, and we were reapproved recently. So we are once again that provider that goes through our National Alliance Youth Sports. They also do our coaches training. So we sent some of our policies into them, and they've read all of that, saying that they're approved. So we're renewed that through 2024 now. So other than that, Challenger Soccer Camp, the Challenger Sports does a weekly summer soccer camp. They're coming back the first week of June, and registration for that is open now. So if you have anyone who wants to do a morning and soccer camp or looking for that, they usually go, I believe, 4 to 14 age group. Other than that, that's about all for sports. So
That's it from Community and Rec Services, unless you guys have any questions.
Questions? Well, what does it do to register for the garage sale? Is there like a data, is there a map or something, or?
Yeah, we do on the city website. Sam has posted a list of all the participating addresses, and if she hasn't done it yet, she is linking those all to Google Maps so that the people that come around on that Saturday or that are looking those few days before can kind of plot it out. Yeah. Also, if you participate on this day as part of it, you do not have to get a garage sale permit from the city, and then you get the bonus of having the city help market and advertise it too. And usually when you have multiple homes, that draws people way more than just the one.
I didn't know you needed a permit. That's interesting.
Yeah. I don't think there's a fee for the garage sale permit, but you have to have it in order to hold one otherwise
A little
and post
thing on the
it.
back of your-
Yeah. So that's waived for the
Signs out.
event.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, for swim team this summer, do you know which cities are participating?
Buckeye, Wickenburg, and Litchfield.
Okay, I think that was last year.
Yeah, same group.
I know I'm looking forward to it. So, without Mr. Kyle Ames here, I guess, you want to just skip that, or do you want to try and give a summary yourself?
So the only thing that Kyle asked me to share with you guys, call attention to on current projects, the Arbor Day tree planting, that will be on April 28th. The location will be at Camelback Park. They're going to replace a tree that had to be removed from the park. We just don't know the time yet. West Coast Arborist has apparently 4 Arbor Day events that day, so they're trying to narrow down for us the exact time. And as soon as we know that, we'll share that with you guys and with the community on the website and social media. But we're hoping it will be early in the morning, will be an early morning, so that it'll be not so hot. Yeah,
So that's a Friday.
yeah.
Okay.
So that is the actual Arbor Day, yeah.
Okay. And maybe perhaps send out invitations, just that.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
You got it.
Next is business, approval of minutes. Presenter, Tricia Kramer, Director of Community and Recreation Services.
Thank you, Chairman Taddy. The draft minutes are in your agenda packet. I encourage you to take another look at them if you haven't yet. And after that, I'm sure Chairman Taddy would entertain a motion.
Bless you.
Thank you.
move that we approve the minutes March 9th. Commission meeting.
Are there any questions about the minutes before we move to a vote? All in favor of approval of the minutes of March 9th, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And so it is.
Thank
Orange
you.
Tree, thank you. Orange Tree Painting Event Outcome. Presenter Anthony Taddy, RPG Chairperson, that's me. So I have to just say, first, thanks to community members and businesses for coming out and making those 2 days just such a lot of fun. Thanks to the city. The city supplied us with paintbrushes, paint. I don't want to forget anything.
The brushes to scrape.
Yeah, the scrubbing brushes to actually clean off the trees first, gloves.
Water.
Yep, we had plenty of water and ice to keep it cold, obviously, and we used the big city cooler. Thank you for that, too. Had a few tables set up. So we had about 25 or 30 the first day and about 20 to 25 the second day. And it was outstanding. Thank you, commissioners, for showing up. Everybody that was in town showed up. And my thought on it is we had enough people reaching out even after the event that we could probably do a couple of more, like, shorter 2-hour sessions of painting in the morning time if we want to tackle, say, one specific area. So, for example, say on Bird Lane for 5 blocks. We're just going to do that area one day, whatever the case. And in speaking with Kyle, and I certainly don't want to speak for anybody else, but in speaking with Kyle, and he made sure we had pizza afterwards on Saturday too, which was fantastic. But in speaking with Kyle, we need to maybe buy paint like off time. So it's just like you buy your summer shirts in January, right? Same kind of thing. You buy your paint when nobody else is buying the paint, so you have plenty of it when you need it. But in speaking with Kyle, he was just so appreciative of how, just any kind of painting that we accomplish just takes so much time and gives it back to the entire Public Works Department. So, and it's just so beautiful. The trees just look so happy and they're healthy, and I mean, you're really driving. The second day we were there, I'm looking at Wigwam, and there was a group of high schoolers that did Wigwam from Litchfield Road to the Circle. And all the trees just look so bright and beautiful as the sun's like coming up over the, it's just amazing. It's just an instant transformation. So thank you to everyone in the community. And it gives me the chance to interact with people from the community, which not just my neighbors, but people that I've never met before, which is something I really enjoy too. And I feel like it's one of the ways that it gives them a voice through us.
That looks really nice.
Right on. Are there any questions?
Did we get the lady's name who had the attachment for her drill to stir the paint?
So, as it turns out, Commissioner Faith has that attachment.
Oh,
Brian,
sweet.
And I will tell you the world of difference that from stirring it for like a half an hour per Kansas.
Right, Brian?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you would not believe.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that was my job.
It's like you're part of the Karate Kid, right? You're up and down blocking and you're stirring the. But I'll tell you, I mean,
Okay, good.
a paint's very thick. It's very like, I guess it's for the trees, but you gotta stir it. If you're gonna stir it by hand, it's like a 20-minute commitment.
Did we pick the date for next year already?
We did not, but
Well,
Yeah,
we
the
agreed
third
that's
weekend in March, I think.
we only have a couple of open weekends, right?
Mhm.
And it's always gonna be right around spring break, probably,
I
unfortunately.
think third weekend misses spring break for Litchfield. Theirs is always like that first or second weekend.
I don't know if the calendars for next year are out yet, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They are?
They are.
So maybe we ought
We
to
caught
cross-reference
the
that.
incoming weekend, was it the first weekend this time when we had it? Like the start of spring break?
the end.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
after
Okay.
spring break.
Yeah, I think it was the last.
That's right. We thought that might be better.
Yeah, gave us an extra week to kind of publicize and, so what might be a good idea there is to cross-reference the calendars for Litchfield and for Aquafria. And then, as we solidify a date for there, maybe we could talk more in the future about a shorter 2-hour session just focused on, so what we got finished was the street, oh, I'm blanking out on it now. What's the street that heads south from the Wigwam? if you're headed on it, the library's on your left, is that,
Right
not
here,
Palm?
Desert?
Desert.
Yeah.
We finished that street, we finished 99% of Old Litchfield Road, we finished Wigwam all the way out to where it splits, and there's the second part of the road, if you're heading west on your left. But, Bird and Villanueva and La Loma weren't really touched. So there is some opportunity, for sure.
Are you thinking another 2 hours, like, in the next couple of weeks?
I wouldn't mind trying it. So a few more volunteer organizations that had gotten with us last year called up after the event, and they said, hey, sorry we missed it. We'd be up for it if you have an opportunity for some volunteers.
Maybe we could plan around whichever is the chunkiest group. I mean, like, if we have people that are gonna bring like 20, then okay, well, that's the day, like, 'cause you're gonna show up with 20, so let's do that.
It's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I could make that contact, and I can bring the information back to them.
Could we do that all cycle, though? Because it might be, next time we meet is May.
So that would be a question for Kyle, right? Where,
Yes, yeah.
because that's the other part of it too. I mean, I couldn't imagine it being, how hard would it be to track when we painted what area? Is that what your question is, or am I taking it in a
No,
different direction than you
my question
intended?
is, if we want to do something before we meet next, we can't get together and discuss it unless we have a meeting, right? But Kyle could say, hey, I'm doing this, and we're just volunteers. I think, right? And I mean, unless we, like, we can't have a communication outside of a posted meeting relating to
As a
coordinating.
group,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, good point. We'll talk about it next May then, or pardon
Well,
me,
and
this
what I'm
May.
saying is, we could, if you tell Kyle, I have these 20 people, and then Kyle sends out a blast to all of us on BCC,
And then
hey,
we
we're
just,
doing this day, that's
we just come
fine.
as volunteers, we don't come as
Yeah.
RPG people.
So does that work?
I mean, you could still come as RPG people. We would just post that if there's gonna be a quorum of you all at that event,
Oh, you'd have.
we could, yeah, we could post that.
But it wouldn't be a problem.
You
We'd
guys
still move
wouldn't
forward
be
with it, is what
discussing
you're saying.
business anyway, it would
Right.
just,
No.
but we'd still let people know
Nothing but tree
that,
business.
yeah, that a quorum was there.
Okay, roger that.
Okay.
So next year, LASD and Agua Fria, their spring break falls from Saturday, March 9th, Sunday, March 17th.
Almost the same
Second
date.
weekend is the third weekend
Mm-hmm.
in the month.
That'd be the same as this year.
We're always gonna hit one end of
Yeah.
spring break or the other, if we say the third weekend.
And how far out do you guys plan city events? Would you guys know what's going on that weekend for the city, or is that just gonna be kept blank because of the spring break?
So the first weekend in March is always the Spring Art and Wine Festival. And then that last weekend, has typically been the Boy Scouts Fun Run. And this year, on top of that, the Historical Society had their event.
By March.
Probably, like, you probably don't wanna go later just because of heat, but February, maybe? Maybe
Kyle
because
made the
of,
point that March was when you did it because the sun's coming,
Yeah.
and you don't want it to, you want it as thick as possible and as fresh as possible, closest to the sun, kind of, is what he said.
Question for Kyle too would be, as they're turning over the grass, is there, like, could we go earlier?
We don't want to do it, we talked about that, you know, like before they transition to Rye.
No,
We did
before
one in
they,
November.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
but
November's
he did
too
say
early.
his preference was
Yeah,
to not do it during that timeframe.
right, because then you
Because it was
sort of
too
waste
early, yeah.
protection time.
Sunblock on before you go on.
Not 2 weeks before.
Not true.
good thinking. So some good thoughts for, as we like kind of look at this and how we can plan it for next year. I don't know that we have to do it in March. Or maybe it's the kind of thing where, like I was saying, if there was, I'm sure it wouldn't be very difficult to track when we did what street. So for example, In March, we did Desert. In March, we did Old Litchfield Road. In October, we did Villanueva, or whatever the case. And then if you have that kind of cycle where you got different groups of volunteers coming in at different times, or...
Well, I think we can follow up with Kyle, but I think the intent was we would do what we do, and then Public Works was gonna do the rest, I assume soon.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
they're all kind of done this season, I think is the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, it's tough to make your annual T-shirt if you're doing it 3 times a year.
That's a really important thought you bring up there.
Good point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's important, too.
I think having it on the same weekend makes it an event. We know that the Wine Fest is the first week in March. We know that tree painting is the third week in March. If we do that over enough years, then we start to get become part of our culture, right?
Right.
And that's what we're looking for, is that embedment. So if we're switching things up on people,
Yeah.
we'll lose that consistent volunteer base, I would.
Yeah, you'll get people that start knowing, oh, this is the weekend that we volunteer. Yeah.
I like that. So there's no action on this. This was just information. Are there any other questions? Okay. Thank you, everybody. Amend the Yard of the Quarter Program Information Action. Presenter Andy Phillips, RPG Vice Chairperson.
So I'm back. I'm not one to give up too easily. I think we had some really good discussion last month, and I would just like to kind of revisit what I remember as some of the high points, and I'm going to also refer to the minutes too, but my suggestion again was that we revamp the Yard of the Quarter and make it maybe a little bit more 2023-ish in that we use a lot more social media. We possibly don't award a Yard of the Quarter, that we include other areas besides what you just see when you drive by. We let citizens actually submit their own yards that we maybe can't see, whether it's their backyard, their side yard, inside a gate in their front or something. And it could be, and this is just a thought, something like Seen in the Park, SCENE in quotes, Seen in the Park. But, you know, the title of it is yet to be determined. The wording in the city code does not limit us to one award called Yard of the Quarter. So the code itself wouldn't even have to be changed. We would, you know, of course, send to City Council our recommendation for what we're going to be doing, but because the code, the way it's written, doesn't specifically say one house per quarter as Yard of the Quarter, it gives us a little bit of freedom to make some modifications and revamp if that's what we decide to do, and then just let City Council, hey, this is what, you know, we would like it to look like going forward. So I still just think that there's lots of room for citizen involvement, which in my heart is how it kind of should be originated. We've got an awesome drone photography person that Chuck Emmert, I don't know if anybody of you guys know him, who has pretty much volunteered his skills and talents to help us, which I think if you guys follow the city on Instagram, you've seen what he's done, and to me, it's just like night and day from some of the Instagram stuff that had happened for the city before. So I think that would be a big plus. And that's all I've got.
So Chuck did the Instagram post for the tree painting,
Yeah.
if you guys saw it.
Any
So
thoughts?
what are you asking of us?
I guess I just want to know, am I the only person that's thinking like this? Like, I just think if we could, so for instance, I came up with those different categories that I left at home. I forgot, I left in a hurry. And so, the winter one, there was a summer one that was like water features, because everybody's outside in the summer. And there was different ones that were representative of the seasons, because they kind of fall into the 4 categories. And let's say we chose to highlight 3 submissions every time, and then they go on our Instagram page as seen in the park. And then the caption for that quarter, whether it's like meet you on the front porch, or I can't remember what they are, but I have them at home. And if there happen to be 6 submissions, which would be hallelujah, that would be awesome. Then maybe it is up to us to pick the top 3 or something like that, because I don't know that we want to have 6 things highlighted. Maybe we limit it to 3, but that way, I just think more people like condo people, they don't have front yards, they can't do this. There's areas where you can't just drive through and see, in the gated parts of the village. There's people that have done really cool stuff in their backyards that we would never know, and I believe in the wording it says like architectural and landscape. Like there's architectural stuff in people's backyards that we would never even know was there. So and I know it's going to be a process, and I know it's going to be slow to get going, and part of that's going to be the social media, part of us is, chatting with our friends and telling them like, hey, if you've done something really cool, go look on the city website or Instagram and, and see if you'd want to submit it. I've talked to people that have lived here for a long time, who have lived here as kids, come back as grown-ups, they've never even heard of Yard of the Quarter. So I just think it's a way to continue to highlight what our citizens do, the pride that we have in that, but yet bring it to a more inclusive state, kind of more representative of where the world is right now.
Does anybody have any questions? Very well said.
I like the idea of, what we've talked about, figuring out ways to do the condos and things like that. Like I don't know how we do it, but if it's this means or something else where we just decide, hey, there's nothing that requires us to go look at all of the city every time. Like we could amongst us even say for next month or next quarter rather, hey, let's just look at condos to start something, right? Without I know you're talking about a big bang change, but even if we just wanted to make small improvements on figuring out how to make sure other parts of the community are represented in this, let's just do that amongst ourselves initially.
Well, a lot of the stuff that the condos do are inside the front wall. Like, we can't see that.
Yeah, that's true.
I know of ones like in those lake ones, whatever they're called, where there's really cool stuff, but they're inside the walls. Like, we can't go knock and go, could I just peek inside your wall and see if you've done anything fun?
You can't fly a drone over it without telling them.
No.
And, it's nice people doing stuff inside the walls, but I think a big part of this is to promote front yards so that everybody has to see, right? Because a lot of people might just let their front yards they don't use go south. And it's a big part of this is also to promote those public areas that are, as neighbors, we all see. I absolutely value in seeing, and promoting some of the more private spaces, but I think a big part of the reason behind this is peer pressure that comes with,
I don't like that word.
What about, I don't know.
Positive encouragement.
Okay.
We could have a page where residents can submit, we could have a theme for each month. This month's theme is porches, front patios, whatever. They could submit their own. Next month would possibly be swimming pools, backyards. Next month might be Halloween, things like that. I don't know.
Every month might be a lot.
Yeah.
But then we don't have to vote on it.
And we just put what they
It's just,
submit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not the quarterly formal thing.
Right.
That might be something different altogether.
I think that's what you're trying to get away from is the formal.
I don't mind the quarterly format. I honestly don't like us picking a winner out of things that we've nominated when none of us have any expertise other than our own personal taste.
Mhm.
I just am not comfortable doing that.
Mhm.
I hate it.
I think a big highlight of what we've been talking about too is, and Commissioner Faith put it very well, he said, he's been here in Litchfield his whole life and he's never heard of Yard of the Quarter. So I believe that having a social media presence with, whether it's a sitting area was one I loved, entranceway or meet me on the front porch, I love Seen in the Park, by the way.
Yeah, I do too.
What a great play on words. So, that said, I wonder if there is a way to, and this isn't something we have to answer right now, if there is a way to have that started for our next quarter and just see what kind of response we get.
Yeah.
Because based on what you said, it doesn't sound like we have to go to city council
No,
if we do them both concurrently for a quarter.
right.
And I know there's some pretty amazing, like if we picked Meet Me on the Front Porch, there's some pretty amazing front porches.
Yeah.
That might be an easy one to start with, because what we could do is ask for the submissions, ask for people via social media, like, hey, we're gonna do front porches or whatever, which is something that we can also see, and then if we don't have enough, we'll go get them, like we have been doing, and then we'll pick them if we have to, right? But if we get enough from the community, well, then we'll still have to pick through those, but that is what it is, that's part of our purview. The part of this that I struggle with, and I think, Adam, it gets to what you're trying to say as well, is the improvement aspect of it. Because while I see things, I don't know enough about, like, the history of every house to go like, wow, they really improved that year over year. So it's almost, what would be really neat is if we could ask with that, hey, if you have before and after pictures, that would be awesome.
Right.
So maybe we can combine these things and start with, let's ask people, but let's ask them about things that we can see without having to get access to their property, so that we have us as a backstop for, okay, well, we only got one guy that submitted a porch.
But if they submit their own pictures of their cool gazebo, barbecue, outdoor kitchen area that they've done, if they're submitting their own pictures, and it's for the summer one or whatever that's like, you know, fire up the grill or whatever it is, then, you know, they're submitting it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, but I guess I'm hedging our bets, because what I'm fearful of is that it's so response, right?
Yeah.
And we get like two people. So if we start with something that we could backfill with, like, okay, well, here's all the porches we think look cool, then nobody else has to see that the participation isn't quite there yet. We can let it build up, and then we can go, okay, cool, we're doing backyards.
Yeah, and
submissions every month.
I think that's something we have to decide too, is like, how many are we gonna post? If we get 24 submissions, I don't think we post 24. I don't know.
No, I think we'll highlight a couple.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we in the short term get away from picking. I think internet-based voting is right for, you know.
But I don't think we have to vote. If we get 3 submissions for the
could be
first
just
time,
look
we
and enjoy.
just put 3 out there with no winner.
I wouldn't commit to that without seeing the 3.
Well, yeah.
But
What if people put it in the comments, and, who's our drone guy?
Chuck Emmer?
Chuck?
What, you know, I'm trying to get on Facebook right now to see how many, followers we have, but
best ratio?
if it said, you know, hey, if you've done some improvements to your front porch, post it in the comments. And that might be a starting place, right? Where we're starting to get, and people are posting their pictures in the comments. Don't have to vote on it, don't have, you know, but it starts sharing stuff. That's what we're talking, right? You know, or, you know, and you could do that almost a month and do it seasonally kind of, or quarterly if you want to do less. But that would be a way to start it and see what kind of interest we could generate out of it.
So I'd recommend we start slow and say, let's keep it quarterly for now. Let's pick a couple subject areas that are visible, so porches. We could do transition to desert landscaping. That's like, we want to encourage that, and we can see the befores and afters. So it's not just desert landscaping, but you've transitioned in the last year. I can think of a couple houses I've seen do that. And then we can work up to, okay, we've got critical mass, let's do, you know, in those, I don't know, like enclosed patios or backyards or barbecues.
You had a sitting area idea that I thought was outstanding, like enjoying the Arizona nights is certainly something that I think everybody here can, agree with. And, you know, Chuck had some great ideas too. He was saying, like, if he were to, like, walk in a shot, like, starting at the street, walking in a shot towards the front door, let's say there's a big vase next to the door, you could, I don't know the correct terminology, and somebody who's more savvy with social media might be able to help me out, but you could make it so that that pot is, like, linked, and you could have a description of the pot. Pot was made by
Yeah.
Joe Bag of Donuts, pot makers, circa whatever the case,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And like, it's, you think of it as almost like you're showcasing all these different, these flowers are blah, 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 and.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, we're probably getting like way down the line, but, I mean, are we in alignment that we would like to start, pick a couple things?
Yeah, I think, I
Mhm.
like your idea, Christoph, in that if we're gonna change, let's change slowly and have it look sort of like what we've been doing. So start with something that is front yard visible or drive-by street visible, and then see how that goes. And then I think we need to stick to quarterly, because otherwise it's gonna be too much work for somebody. And if we were to, but I think before we do it, I mean, in my head, we need to leave the name of Yard of the Quarter and come up with a new name. Because if we're gonna change it, we need to change it. But that's just my thought.
So like on social media, it would be Yard of the Quarter is moving to
Mm-hmm,
Seen in the Park.
mm-hmm, whatever. I mean, that was my 5:30 a.m. thought this
That's a
morning.
good one.
But,
I wish I had thoughts like that at 5:30.
Are we abandoning Yard of the Quarter, or are we
Yeah.
adding something?
no,
We are transitioning.
it's evolving, and, yeah, it will.
I'm not in favor of fully abandoning it until we see what happens with new things.
Sort of a concurrent, so here's what we're trying here, while we still continue Yard of the Quarter.
If we could keep the name for now and then transition it into the approach of let's do porch and then let's do desert, and then if that catches on.
It's Fisher.
I like Yard of the Quarter. I'm gonna vote to keep Yard of the Quarter, so.
I'm not married to the name, but I like where your head is in terms of let's pick some different things and get people to participate.
We need to get participation,
Yeah.
absolutely, because there has never been any community participation. The most community participation is my girlfriends walking with me and hearing me say, if you guys see any houses out there, give me the addresses so I can
Yeah.
drive by, so I can put my nominations in. That's been,
No, we tried it one time many years ago. We got one submission, and they'd already won. One. So, I mean, it's gonna take time, I think, for people. But back then, too, we didn't have the social media going around like we do now. We don't have the people following Instagram and the city's Facebook page and everything. So maybe that would work in our advantage, hopefully. I don't know.
So City of Litchfield Park on Instagram has 1,600 followers.
3,400 on Facebook.
Good. Those are good numbers. Okay.
Is that common? Probably, right, for a higher Facebook than a Instagram? But you could, whatever you put on one, you could have on the other, they could
Yeah.
shadow.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think, I think Chuck is currently doing that at the moment. I think it's kicking out to both simultaneously.
So when is our next Yard of the Quarter due? It's not until like June, right?
Next
So
month.
you guys should be starting to nominate at this point. So this is a really good time to figure out what you want to do. And, I did hear back from the Yard of the Quarter for the first
Oh,
quarter
the winner.
today, actually.
Right on.
It's been slow communication, and you're right. They were not familiar, so they were a little leery of, why am I sending them this letter, reaching out? So they are agreeable to having us come out, put the sign up, and having it be photographed, and the drone is okay too.
That is wonderful news.
So.
That's our leapfrog now, right? That's
Right.
a stepping stone.
So we can have Chuck go out and take some pictures and drone footage to help push out Yard of the Quarter and introduce however you guys determine you want to move forward.
Let me put a draft of I'm not making a motion, I'm putting a draft of a motion out there that we say, and I'm gonna suggest we start with conversion to desert, because that's closest to it's still yard and porches, but maybe we evolve there, okay? So my motion would be that when we post this to social media, that we invite others to nominate for yard of the quarter.
Not nominate,
To
Share?
to
submit.
Submit.
Sure.
Yeah.
To submit for yard of the quarter, yards that have been converted to desert landscaping for next quarters.
So I have a question on that. If they put in artificial turf, does that count?
Sure. What do we call, what's the word for that again? It's
Xeriscaping or something?
Xeriscaping? Okay. I'm amenable to that. And that way, we're not giving up the name at this point, but we're starting to ease into, let's get people to self-nominate and see how this thing goes, because I don't want us just to keep tossing this around month after month and not making any progress on it.
Right. But, I mean, the number of people that know that it's called Yard of the Quarter is so small that maybe I like what you're saying, but maybe we include in there, and I don't know how you do this, you know, that so then when do you make the switch? I guess that's my question. So if we say this time, submit, so that's a change, and we're giving a category, which I like, but we're still tagging it Yard of the Quarter, like, so when do you make the switch to whatever it's gonna be called?
Unless we're putting a lot of, making collateral, then I don't know that it matters too much, right? It's not like we're investing in a bunch of new signage or print or any other kinds of hard media, so I don't know that it.
When do we make the change?
Or perhaps another way to say it would be, what factors would we be watching to know that, the city's ready for the change?
So the reason that I'm hesitant on the name change, I think, is similar to what you're thinking, is that if we call it something that it's scenes, and we're thinking that it's a bunch of different scenes, and we don't start to get adoption, then we're sort of dead in the water of
Yeah.
we're doing scenes, and what scenes we're not getting any
Right.
scenes. So that's why I'd be a little hesitant to just dive in
Gotcha.
on that.
Yep.
So the factor would be having people participate, having
Yeah.
the community
Yeah.
send
Yeah.
in.
And
Now-
then, if that's good, then we can maybe take it
Yeah, we
a
start to
little
flirt with the porches
space,
in the yard, and then we'll get to backyard, and then maybe it starts
see how
to
it
turn
goes,
into,
and then,
If we get no submissions, we would still need to find our own.
Yes, so we should probably find some regardless, that we'll, even not wait until we don't have any, but just find
And
one.
we're focusing around a desert landscape this time? I like that idea a lot.
Xeriscape.
Xeriscape, okay.
No,
Xeriscape, pardon me.
it's Xeri, Xeriscape.
Xeriscape,
Mhm.
that's not how it's spelled, but that'll work for me, okay.
But not specifically people that have just transitioned to it though, right? 'Cause we
No,
wouldn't-
Right.
I'm thinking transitions.
But how do we know?
How do we know?
We're not-
They
we're
would
nominating.
nominate, well, I mean, if they lie, they lie, right?
No, if we're going around trying to find some,
That's a good point, I know one.
Just say Xeriscape.
Yeah, I would say
After
just leave it
transition?
Xeriscape as opposed to trying to add on the
Okay,
extra
well-
transition.
I would
do too.
like
I
if
don't
they
think it
had
matters
before and
if it's
after
new or not.
pictures, that would be cool, because I think we want to
Would
encourage
be
improvement.
Yeah, I think, if it was done 5 years ago, good for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're ahead of the game. Okay.
Yeah,
So I'd like to make a motion that we direct Chuck, or not direct, but ask Chuck to, when he posts the winner of the last yard of the quarter, put out there that people can submit for the next yard of the quarter by a date that staff can determine, for Xeriscaped yards, and that we independently come up with nominations to back up if there's not
Just in
enough from
case.
the community.
and, okay, I don't think Chuck would be the one that would be putting that word out,
So we have a PR person,
Yeah, we
right,
have
for
a-
the city of Litchfield Park?
right?
So she could probably wordsmith however that,
I'll work with her. We'll work on getting the wording for it, and we'll let Chuck do the pretty stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to amend my motion to say staff instead of Chuck.
I just didn't want him to be liable.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
when we second this motion, does somebody have to repeat all that? That's gonna be the hardest one we ever did.
I couldn't even do the oath with you.
Somebody just say so moved.
I just have one more question. If we only got 3 submissions, would that be okay? Because we're not picking a winner, right?
We're not picking a winner.
What are we doing with the submissions afterwards?
We just post them.
So let me just remind you guys, though, that you do have to recommend to council. You don't have to recommend just one. So if you decide that it's gonna be 3, you're gonna have to pass those 3 addresses on to council and say, we'd like them to be recognized for their Xeriscapes or for whatever.
As Yard of the
Supposedly
Quarter celebration, here are the 3 that we're recommending to be
But it's not called yard
recognized.
of quarter in the code.
It's not, no. So you guys would have to decide, are you sticking with Yard of the Quarter and just one? Or are you just generally recommending that council acknowledge them for their,
Baby steps.
So there
Yeah.
was that wording in there that council acknowledges?
recommend quarterly for formal recognition by the council those homeowners who have maintained or enhanced their property by making significant landscape or architectural improvements.
So it's a plural, that's a good thing. Homeowners, okay.
So I'll say it again with no more than 3.
Okay.
Is that, okay.
And if there's more than 3, then I
Then
suppose that's where we would step
you
in
would
and
come
we
in.
would,
And what if some of the 3 aren't Xeriscaped, or some of the
No more
3
than
aren't?
3, that's what I'm
But
saying. So
are we going to vet them at all, or is it?
we're still gonna
if we
pick
get
them.
3,
Yeah, I think
Are
we would have to.
We
vet
will,
them.
we'll have to review them and pick them, and if there's 3 and they're all just
You're
front
not
grass,
getting
then
3.
we need to use our
You're not
backstops.
getting any. You're not getting any.
This first time we
Sorry
might
to be
not get in.
Debbie Downer, but no, it's gonna take a long time for people to
Uh-huh.
start doing this.
Yeah, we'll have to fake it in terms of, like,
Yeah.
hey, these are the winners, great, yay,
Yeah.
next month you submit for this,
Yep,
next quarter.
next quarter, yeah,
But we gotta start somewhere.
I agree.
and I
It's
don't,
gonna be painful at first. Just hopefully people pick up on it.
All right, it's a new motion.
Okay.
I have a question from the audience, I don't know if we can entertain questions from the audience. or-
let's do a question, oh, we can't,
No.
unfortunately,
Yeah,
sorry about
we
that.
cannot.
Well, we're all here afterwards,
Yeah.
sorry about that. Fire away, Commissioner Gertz.
Make a motion that we ask staff to, when they post the winner for the last yard of the quarter, ask residents to submit their yards that are in the xeriscaping category and include pictures before and after if possible, and that we choose no more than 3 to recommend to council, and that we bring our own recommendations and our normal timeline in case we don't get enough from the community.
I think that was very well said. Are there any questions with that?
I'll second that.
I think you have to try and say it all.
Yeah, she does.
No, I do have a question.
Thank
I do
God.
have a question, Chairman Toddy.
Fire away, sir.
So, I don't mean to make this go any longer than it needs to, but a year ago, we said we split it into quadrants. Now, if we're just looking for a style, we're all gonna go back to our home quadrants. And we're not gonna go see the greens or other spots, right? Because we're gonna stay in our own milieu, so to speak.
We could still
No.
do our
We could
work in
still-
the quadrants.
Yeah, well, ours can still come from the
Well,
quadrant.
and I purposely go out of my neighborhood. I purposely, every single time, go somewhere else.
I was saying, before, our nominations had to come from certain quadrants, so we made sure we covered the whole city. And if we're, within our nominations that we're bringing, are we doing away with the quadrants, or are we just looking for Xeriscape?
No, I would say we would still stay with the quadrants for our nominations, but it doesn't mean that the city would have to. Theirs can come from anywhere, I would think.
Yeah, the citizen nomination. Or just say, everybody leave your neighborhood, go look somewhere else.
We don't have to amend the motion because we already have that we look in the quadrants, so we can go look in the quadrants and keep it as is, I think.
And you'll let us know what quadrant we're working in this time around, right, Trish?
She can.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm pretty sure it's 3, but I will double check and send the email to you guys to confirm that.
Thank you for that. And let us know the date that our nominations would be due, regardless of what's going on with anything from the citizenry. So as you were saying that, I had the thought too, so what we tried to do in past years with the yard of the quarter was we tried to almost cross-reference. So like, for example, if the Parkers won last quarter, now the quadrant kind of fixed that, right? But if the Parkers won last year, we would share previous winners, and then we would say like, well, we're going to try and look at all the other homes too, right? So is that something we need to think about now, or is that something we could just like worry about later?
I'd say baby steps. Let's
Worry about it later.
There's a lot of parameters to worry about in these nominations.
We always have,
Copy.
you'll let us know if we nominate someone that's already been picked, right,
Mhm.
as usual,
I can
so.
do that, yeah.
Yeah, we had a list once, and I think the rule is you can only win once every,
So many years,
it was 3
right?
or 5 years. There's a rule
Thought it
about
was
that,
5.
for yard of the quarter, it might be 5. So,
So that you weren't always picking the same, like,
Right.
person when we went to that particular neighborhood or
Mhm.
yep,
whatever the case. And it's, you know, you could fall into that trap, because
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
Okay, so are there any other questions about that nomination or about this discussion? We already have our motion, we have our second, so that means you're ready to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? And so it is. I don't know.
You've got
Oh.
a pen.
I do, which
got
is the
that.
most important
I
part,
know.
for sure.
Bring it every time.
I forgot my glasses tonight, but I got my pen. Commissioners report on current events. Commissioner Fix.
I don't have anything to report. I just have always kudos for the maintenance. I mean, they are always out there at the crack of dawn, making sure our city is beautiful and cleaning things up, and I commend them because I'm in Camelback Park a lot with my dog, and there's so much trash left behind from events that people host there, and
Hopefully not our soccer teams, that's where our practice is.
no, I think they're outside people that come and enjoy our parks, you know, on the weekends, and boy, they're there Monday morning to crack it down to make sure those parks are clean, so they're doing a great job.
Right on. Commissioner Gertz.
I have no updates this month.
Commissioner Schwartz.
Thank you.
Commissioner Colberth.
Just again, thank you to everybody that came out and helped with the tree painting and made it a success. That was fun.
Right on. Vice Chair Phillips.
I'm gonna tag along with what Susan said and tie it into the Historical Society's home tour, because that day just showed off Litchfield, and the city was shining that day. I mean, you know, everything was just trimmed, and it was just beautiful. And then to have all of the people out from all over the city, really, not just Litchfield, it was just, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. We were represented pretty well on that tour.
Yeah, we were.
I was very proud to be a resident of Litchfield
Yeah.
Park.
Right on.
Yep.
So I'll just echo your guys' sentiments, you know, Kyle's not here, but as always, super impressed with the work that he and his team do. And just thank you to all of the city workers for not just helping us, with things like the tree painting, but, you know, just how well organized everything is and the assistance that we get, even with the things like Yard of the Quarter and things of that nature. So thank you guys. And I should say the sports too, because as a coach again in the middle of a season, just seeing how the whole community comes out for a game. The whole community, you got grandparents, aunts, uncles, holy cow. So
Isn't it great?
it is.
Love it.
It really is.
Yep.
So we have no topics for referral to city council because of how we did the motion,
Yeah.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That leaves only one thing left, guys.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Are there any questions about that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And so it is. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Christoph, for